The fist connected with her jaw before she could even raise her hands to defend herself. Faye's head snapped back, blood pooling in her mouth as the metallic taste spread across her tongue. She stumbled backward, her worn sneakers sliding on the dirt path, desperately trying to find her footing. "Please," she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "Please stop." But they didn't stop. They never stopped. Marcus, the ringleader with his cruel smile and dead eyes, grabbed her by the collar and slammed her against a tree. The bark scraped against her spine, tearing through her thin jacket. "What's wrong, freak? Going to cry for your wolf friends?" From the shadows of the ancient forest surrounding them, 40 pairs of eyes watched. Golden. Burning. Patient. The branches above them trembled not from wind, but from the weight of massive bodies perched in absolute silence. Wolves. Dozens of them. Watching every movement. Every breath. Every cruel laugh. The largest among them, a black wolf with eyes like molten gold, stood on a thick branch directly above the scene. His muscles coiled tight, every fiber of his being screaming to attack, to protect, to destroy. But he waited. Because he needed to be sure. He needed to know if she was truly the one. And then it happened. Another blow. This time to her ribs. Faye crumpled to the ground, gasping for air that wouldn't come. The world spun around her, darkening at the edges. Before we dive deeper into what happens next, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy werewolf stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who'd love it too. Trust me, you won't want to miss what these wolves do next. 3 weeks earlier, life was different for Faye Morrison, though not by much. She'd always been the quiet one, the girl who sat in the back corner of every classroom, who ate lunch alone in the library, who took the long way home just to avoid crowds. At 17, she'd perfected the art of invisibility. Or so she thought. "There's something wrong with you," her classmate Jennifer had said once, not out of cruelty but genuine confusion. "You're just different." Different. Faye had heard that word her entire life. Different because she preferred the whisper of wind through trees to the chatter of teenagers. Different because she felt most at peace when walking the forest trails that bordered her small town of Millbrook. Different because sometimes, late at night, she'd wake from dreams of running on 4 legs, of hunting under moonlight, of belonging to something wild and ancient. She worked part-time at the Millbrook Public Library, a position that suited her perfectly. Books didn't judge. Books didn't exclude. Books didn't form tight circles and whisper when she walked by. But Marcus Trent, Blake Donovan, and Casey Mitchell did. The 3 of them had made her their personal project since freshman year. It started small, knocked books, spilled drinks, cruel comments in the hallway. But it had escalated over time, growing bolder, meaner, more physical. "Why don't you just fight back?" her coworker Mrs. Patterson had asked once, after noticing the bruise on Faye's arm. How could she explain that fighting back felt wrong? That something deep inside her whispered to wait, to endure, that her time would come? She couldn't explain it because she didn't understand it herself. Every day after school, Faye would walk through Thornwood Forest. The locals avoided it, claiming it was cursed, that people who went too deep never came back. But Faye felt safer there than anywhere else in the world. She didn't know why the birds went silent when she passed. She didn't notice how the usual forest sounds, squirrels chattering, deer moving through underbrush, stopped completely in her presence. She was oblivious to the shadows that moved between trees, keeping pace with her every step. But they noticed her. In the deepest part of Thornwood, where ancient trees grew so thick that daylight barely penetrated the canopy, the Shadowfang pack made their home. 40 wolves strong, they were the last of their kind in this region, led by Alpha Ronan Blackwood, a wolf so powerful that neighboring packs refused to challenge his territory. For 3 years, they'd watched over Faye Morrison. Protected her from dangers she never saw coming. Diverted predators. Scared off a would-be attacker 2 summers ago. Guided her away from the dangerous ravine during that storm last spring. She still doesn't know, said Kira, Ronan's second-in-command, as they watched Faye walk her usual path through the trees. How long will you wait? Ronan's massive wolf form sat perfectly still on a high branch, his golden eyes tracking every movement the girl made below. Until I'm certain, he rumbled, his voice deeper than thunder. The prophecy spoke of a Luna born between worlds, hidden among humans, whose awakening would come through trial. I will not claim her until I know beyond doubt that she is mine. And if the trial kills her first? Kira asked quietly. Ronan's growl shook leaves from the branches. Then heaven help whoever harms her. On this particular afternoon, Faye's routine changed. The library had closed early for repairs, sending her home 2 hours earlier than usual. She took her normal path through Thornwood, her worn backpack slung over one shoulder, lost in thought about the book she'd been reading, a fantasy novel about a girl who discovered she was something more than human. Wouldn't that be nice, she thought with a bitter smile. To discover you had power. To learn you weren't weak after all. She didn't hear them following her until it was too late. Well. Marcus's voice cut through the forest peace like a knife. Look who decided to take a walk through our territory. Faye's blood went cold. She spun around to find all three of them, Marcus, Blake, and Casey, blocking the path behind her. Marcus held a baseball bat. Blake was cracking his knuckles. Casey's smile was the worst of all, excited and eager. This isn't your territory, Faye said, proud that her voice didn't shake. The forest belongs to everyone. The forest belongs to whoever's strong enough to claim it, Marcus shot back, taking a step forward. And you? You're not strong enough to claim anything, are you, freak? Above them, the trees erupted with silent movement. Wolves poured from their hidden positions, surrounding the scene in a perfect circle of deadly grace. They made no sound. No growls. No snarls. Just the terrible silence of predators preparing to strike. Ronan positioned himself directly above Faye, his entire body vibrating with barely contained rage. Around him, 39 wolves waited for his command, muscles coiled, teeth bared in the darkness. But Faye saw none of this. She only saw 3 bullies advancing toward her, and the forest path behind them that represented her only escape. She ran. It was the worst decision she could have made. Faye's feet pounded against the dirt path, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Behind her, she could hear Marcus and the others giving chase, their laughter echoing through the trees like the cackle of hyenas. Run faster, little mouse. Blake shouted. Make it fun for us. She veered off the main path, hoping to lose them in the thicker underbrush, but her foot caught on a root and she went down hard. Pain exploded in her knee as it struck a rock. Before she could scramble back to her feet, hands grabbed her from behind. Marcus hauled her up and threw her against a massive oak tree. The impact drove the air from her lungs. Thought you could run from us? He leaned in close, his breath hot and sour against her face. You've been avoiding us for weeks. That hurts our feelings, freak. I just want to be left alone, Faye whispered, tears streaming down her face. Please. I've never done anything to you. You exist, Casey said, circling around to stand beside Marcus. That's enough. Above them, Ronan's control was fracturing. His claws dug into the branch beneath him, gouging deep furrows in the wood. Around him, the pack was equally on edge. Several wolves had descended from the trees, moving through the underbrush in complete silence, getting into position. Alpha, Kira's voice came through the pack mind link. Give the order. We can end this now. Not yet, Ronan growled back, though every instinct screamed at him to tear these humans apart. Something is about to happen. I can feel it. Marcus shoved Faye to the ground. She hit the dirt hard, leaves and twigs scratching her face. Before she could move, a boot connected with her stomach. Once. Twice. 3 times. She curled into a ball, trying to protect her vital organs, but they were everywhere. Casey grabbed her backpack and dumped its contents across the ground, stomping on her notebooks, grinding her pens into the dirt. What's this? Blake picked up a small journal, flipping through pages covered in Faye's careful handwriting. Dear Diary, today I was a pathetic loser again. He read in a mocking voice, I saw the wolves in the forest today. I know they're there. I know they're watching me. Marcus snatched the journal and read further, his expression shifting from mockery to something darker. This freak thinks she's friends with wolves. She actually comes out here hoping to see them. He looked down at Faye with disgust. You're even crazier than we thought. Give it back, Faye gasped, reaching for the journal. Please. Marcus held it high above her head, then deliberately tore out a page. Then another. Then another. He let the torn pages flutter down around her like snow. Stop, she sobbed. Please stop. That's when the first wolf growled. It was low, almost subsonic, more of a vibration in the air than an actual sound. The three bullies froze, their heads whipping around to scan the darkening forest. Did you hear that? Casey's voice had lost its confident edge. Probably just the wind, Blake said, but his hands were shaking. Marcus kicked Faye again, harder this time, right in the ribs. Something cracked. Faye's scream of pain cut through the forest, and the growling increased, coming from all directions now. We should go, Casey said, backing away. Something's not right here. But Marcus wasn't done. He grabbed Faye by her hair and hauled her up to her knees. You think wolves are going to save you? You think anything in this world gives a damn about a nobody like you? He pulled his fist back, preparing to strike her face. And that's when it happened. A silver light exploded from Faye's skin. It wasn't bright, not like a flashlight or a flare. It was softer, more ethereal, like moonlight given physical form. It rippled across her arms, down her legs, spreading through her body in waves of luminescent power. Marcus stumbled backward, his hand still tangled in her hair, yanking her head back painfully. What the hell? The light pulsed once, twice, then faded, leaving Faye gasping on the ground, more confused than anyone else about what had just happened. But Ronan had seen it. He'd felt it through every fiber of his being. The mate bond, dormant and waiting for 3 years, suddenly snapped into place with such force that it nearly knocked him from his perch. She is mine, he whispered, and the words carried through the pack mind link with absolute authority. The Luna has awakened. Every wolf in the Shadowfang pack felt the bond form. Felt their future Luna's pain, her fear, her broken ribs and bruised body. Felt her fading consciousness as shock began to set in. Alpha? Kira's voice was sharp with urgency. Ronan's response was a snarl that promised death. 20 with me. 20 hunt. Kill no one, but make them understand the meaning of terror. Marcus, still reeling from the strange light, grabbed Faye by the throat. I don't know what kind of trick that was, but you're going to regret. His fist crashed into the side of her head. Everything went silent. Faye's body went limp, her eyes rolling back. She collapsed to the ground like a puppet with cut strings, blood trickling from her temple. Oh God, Blake whispered. Marcus, I think you killed her. Marcus stared at his hand, then at Faye's motionless form. She's fine. She's just knocked out. She's not moving, Casey said, his voice climbing toward hysteria. She's not breathing. Check her pulse. Marcus ordered. Blake knelt beside Faye, his shaking hand reaching for her neck. I can't. I don't know if I feel anything. Marcus, we need to call someone. We need to. The forest exploded. It wasn't a sound, exactly. It was more like reality itself tore open. One moment, the three bullies were alone with Faye's unconscious body. The next, they were surrounded by 40 wolves. They materialized from the shadows, from behind trees, from the underbrush, from branches overhead. Massive creatures, each one the size of a small bear, with fur ranging from midnight black to silver gray to russet brown. Their eyes glowed in the dying light, gold, amber, green, all fixed on the three humans with predatory intensity. Casey screamed. The sound seemed to trigger something in the wolves. As one, they moved forward, closing the circle tighter and tighter until the three bullies were pressed together, surrounded by fangs and fury. "Don't move," Marcus whispered. "Don't run. Don't." Blake bolted. He made it exactly 3 steps before 5 wolves cut off his path, forcing him back into the circle. He fell to his knees, sobbing. From the largest oak tree, Ronan dropped to the ground. He was massive, even for an alpha wolf. His black fur absorbed the fading light, making him look like a piece of living shadow. When he walked, the earth seemed to acknowledge his authority. He approached Faye's body, the other wolves parting before him like water. When he reached her, he lowered his head, his nose gently touching her cheek. The mate bond sang through him, confirming what he already knew. She was alive. Barely. Her pulse was weak, her breathing shallow. But alive. Ronan turned his golden gaze on the 3 humans. In his eyes, they saw their deaths. Not metaphorical. Not threatened. They saw, with absolute certainty, that they were going to die in this forest. "Please," Marcus whispered. "Please, we didn't mean to." Ronan's growl cut him off. It was a sound that came from the depths of the earth, from the darkness between stars, from every nightmare humanity had ever had about the things that hunt them in the dark. 20, Ronan's voice echoed in the minds of half his pack. "Protect our Luna. Take her to the healing den. Kira, you lead them." A beautiful silver wolf stepped forward, lowering herself beside Faye's body. Together with 3 other wolves, they carefully, gently, lifted Faye onto Kira's back. "The rest of you," Ronan continued, his eyes never leaving the 3 bullies. "We're going to teach these humans a lesson about touching what belongs to us." Kira ran through the forest with Faye on her back, 3 wolves flanking her, 16 more spread out in a protective formation around them. They moved like liquid shadow, making no sound despite their size and speed. "How is she?" one of the wolves, a young male named Ash, asked through the mind link. "Weak," Kira responded. "But I can feel her fighting. The Luna is stronger than she knows." They reached the heart of Shadowfang territory in minutes, emerging into a clearing where a massive cave system opened into the mountainside. Inside, the pack had created a home over generations. Warm furs covered the floors. A fire burned in a central pit, its smoke venting through natural chimneys in the rock. Herbs hung drying from the ceiling, and fresh water trickled down one wall into a clear pool. The pack healer, an elderly wolf named Sage, was already waiting. She'd felt the Luna's awakening through the pack bond and had prepared everything she'd need. "Lay her here," Sage commanded, gesturing to a pile of the softest furs near the fire. Kira lowered herself carefully, and the other wolves helped ease Faye onto the furs. In the firelight, her injuries looked even worse. Her face was swollen and bruised. Blood matted her hair. Her breathing was ragged and uneven. 3 broken ribs, Sage said, her experienced nose examining Faye without even touching her. Concussion. Internal bruising. These humans tried to kill her. They nearly succeeded, Kira growled. If the Alpha hadn't been watching. But he was watching. He's always been watching. Sage began mixing herbs with practiced efficiency, creating a paste that she gently applied to Faye's worst wounds. "The prophecy said the Luna would come to us through suffering. I just didn't imagine it would be this brutal." Around them, the 20 wolves who'd escorted Faye home formed a protective circle. They wouldn't leave. Couldn't leave. Every one of them felt the pull of the Luna bond now, the instinctive need to protect their future Alpha's mate. "Will she survive?" Ash asked quietly. Sage looked at the young wolf, her ancient eyes sad but certain. "She'll survive. But when she wakes, everything she thought she knew about herself will be shattered. That's its own kind of death." Meanwhile, back in the forest, the 3 bullies were learning what it meant to be prey. The 20 wolves Ronan had kept with him didn't attack. Not with teeth and claws. That would have been too quick, too merciful. Instead, they herded. Whenever Marcus tried to run east, wolves blocked his path. When Blake turned south, more wolves emerged from the shadows. Casey crawled north on his hands and knees, sobbing, only to find himself face to face with a snarling beast that pushed him back toward the others. "What do they want?" Blake screamed. "Why don't they just kill us?" "Because that would be too easy," Marcus said, and for the first time, his voice carried actual understanding. "They're showing us what we did to her. They're showing us what it feels like to be hunted." They were driven through the forest for hours. Every time they tried to escape, wolves appeared. Every time they slowed down, growls from behind spurred them onward. They ran until their lungs burned. Until their legs gave out. Until they collapsed in exhaustion, only to be forced up again by snapping jaws that never quite bit down. By the time Ronan finally led them to the edge of Thornwood Forest, where the trees met the town of Millbrook, all three bullies were broken. Not physically, though they were scratched, bruised, and exhausted, but mentally. Psychologically. They'd learned what true fear felt like. Ronan stood before them, massive and terrible in the moonlight that now bathed the forest. Behind him, 19 other wolves waited. "You will tell no one what happened here tonight," Ronan said, and though he spoke in growls and snarls, somehow the humans understood every word. "You will tell your parents you got lost in the forest. You will tell the police you fell down a ravine. You will lie to everyone about everything." "What about Faye?" Marcus dared to ask. "What did you do with her?" Ronan's lips pulled back from his fangs. "Faye is no longer your concern. Faye is no longer human. Faye belongs to the forest now. If you ever speak her name again, if you ever think about her again, if you ever come within a mile of these woods again, we will find you. And next time, we will not be merciful." Casey had one question: "Why didn't you kill us?" Ronan's laugh was a terrible sound. "Because you're going to live with what you did. Every day for the rest of your miserable lives, you'll remember the girl you beat unconscious. You'll remember that moment you thought you'd killed her. And you'll remember that something found you in the forest. Something that decided you weren't worth the effort of killing." With that, Ronan turned and melted back into the shadows. The other 19 wolves followed, disappearing so completely it was as if they'd never been there at all. The three bullies stood at the forest's edge, shaking and traumatized. "We need to get our stories straight," Marcus finally said. "We fell. We got lost. We never saw any girl. We were never in those woods. But everyone knows we bully her," Blake whispered. "If she disappears, they'll question us. Then we say we haven't seen her in days," Casey said. "We say we stopped bothering her weeks ago. We say we don't know anything." They stumbled into town just after midnight, dirty and terrified. They went to their respective homes. They told their lies. And they never spoke of that night again. But they never forgot. They couldn't. Because every night, in their dreams, they saw those golden eyes watching them from the darkness. And they knew, with absolute certainty, that the wolves were still out there. Still watching. Still waiting. If you're loving this story so far, don't forget to hit that like button and drop a comment letting us know what you think is going to happen next. Will Faye accept her new destiny? Will the bullies face justice? Stay tuned to find out. Faye woke to warmth. That was the first thing she noticed, not pain, though that came a moment later, but warmth. The kind of deep, encompassing warmth that comes from being somewhere safe. Somewhere protected. She opened her eyes slowly, wincing at the firelight that seemed too bright after the darkness. Her vision swam for a moment before focusing on the stone ceiling above her, painted orange and gold by flickering flames. "Easy," a woman's voice said. "Don't try to move yet." Faye turned her head, carefully, because everything hurt, and found herself looking at an elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes. The woman was placing a cool cloth on Faye's forehead. "Where am I?" Faye's voice came out as a croak. "Safe," the woman replied. "That's all you need to know right now. I was in the forest. Marcus and the others, they were. Memory crashed over Faye in a wave. The beating. The pain. The silver light that had burst from her skin. I'm dead, aren't I? This is whatever comes after. You're not dead, child. Though you came terrifyingly close. Faye tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain lanced through her ribs, stealing her breath. I said don't move, the woman scolded gently, pressing Faye back down onto the furs. You have 3 broken ribs, a severe concussion, and more bruises than I can count. Your body needs time to heal. Who are you? Faye asked. Where is everyone? Why does it smell like wolf? The woman smiled. That's because you're in a wolf den, dear. My name is Sage, and I'm the healer for the Shadowfang pack. Faye's eyes went wide. The wolves. I saw them. When Marcus hit me, there were so many of them. 40 of us, to be precise. Sage began mixing more herbs in a wooden bowl. We've been watching over you for 3 years now. We just didn't expect your awakening to come quite so violently. My awakening? I don't understand any of this. Tears welled in Faye's eyes, partly from pain, partly from confusion, partly from the overwhelming sense that her entire reality had just shifted. Please, just tell me what's happening. That's not my place, Sage said softly. But he's here. He's been here the entire time, actually. He refused to leave your side. Who? As if in answer, a massive black wolf stepped out of the shadows at the back of the den. Faye's breath caught in her throat. She'd never seen an animal so large, so powerful. His golden eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her feel like he could see straight through to her soul. The wolf approached slowly, carefully, as if afraid he might scare her. When he reached the furs where she lay, he lowered his head and gently, impossibly gently, touched his nose to her hand. The world exploded with sensation. Faye gasped as something inside her chest snapped into place, like a puzzle piece she hadn't known was missing. Suddenly, she could feel the wolf, his concern, his relief, his overwhelming need to protect her. And underneath all of that, something deeper. Something that whispered, mine. What is this? She breathed. The wolf stepped back, and the air around him began to shimmer. Faye watched in awe as his form shifted, bones and muscles rearranging themselves in ways that should have been horrifying but somehow weren't. In seconds, where the wolf had stood, there was now a man. He was tall, with black hair that fell to his shoulders and those same golden eyes that had watched her from the wolf's face. He wore simple clothes, dark pants and a loose shirt, and he moved with the same predatory grace as his wolf form. My name is Ronan Blackwood, he said, his voice deep and resonant. I'm the alpha of the Shadowfang pack. And you, Faye Morrison, are my fated mate. Faye's world tilted. You're what? Fated mate. Luna. Destined partner. Whichever term makes the most sense to you. Ronan knelt beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Every alpha has one, though many never find theirs. I've been looking for you my entire life. And I found you 3 years ago, working at the library, walking through my forest, completely unaware of what you were. I'm human, Faye said, but even as the words left her mouth, she wasn't sure they were true anymore. You were raised as human, Ronan corrected. But you're wolf-born, Faye. Half-blood. One of your parents was human, but the other was one of us. They hid you in the human world to keep you safe, and they did their job well. But you were always meant to find your way back to us. This is insane. This isn't possible. You felt it when I touched you, Ronan said quietly. The bond. The recognition. You've dreamed of running on 4 legs, haven't you? Of hunting under the moon? Of belonging to something wild? Faye couldn't deny it. She'd had those dreams her entire life. The wolves I saw in the forest, she said slowly. All those times I felt like something was watching me. That was your pack? Protecting you. Always. Ronan's jaw tightened. Though we failed today. Those humans nearly killed you before your wolf could fully awaken. The silver light, Faye remembered. When Marcus grabbed me, there was light coming from my skin. Your wolf trying to emerge to defend you. But she wasn't strong enough yet. She needed the full awakening, which only happens when. Ronan paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. When the mate bond forms completely. Which happened when you touched me just now. Yes. Faye closed her eyes, trying to process everything. Part of her wanted to scream that this was impossible, that wolves couldn't turn into humans, that fated mates weren't real. But another part of her, a deeper, instinctive part, knew that every word Ronan spoke was true. What happens now? She asked finally. Now you heal, Ronan said. And then, if you choose, we teach you what you are. What you can become. And if I don't choose? If I want to go back to my normal life? Pain flashed across Ronan's face, but he didn't look away. Then you go. I won't force you to stay, Faye. The mate bond doesn't take away your choices. It just means that we're connected, that we're meant to be together. But meant to be doesn't mean forced to be. That's not how this works in the stories, Faye said weakly. In every werewolf book I've read, the alpha just claims his mate and that's that. Stories are written by people who don't understand what we really are, Ronan replied. Yes, I'm alpha. Yes, I'm dominant and protective and probably overbearing by human standards. But you're my Luna, Faye. That means you're my equal, not my possession. Your consent matters. Your choices matter. You matter. Faye felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She couldn't remember the last time someone had told her she mattered. I'm scared, she admitted. I know. Ronan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently wiped the tears from her face. But you're safe here. I swear on my life, on my pack, on everything I am, you're safe. Around them, Faye suddenly became aware of the other wolves. They'd been there all along, she realized, positioned around the den in a protective circle. 20 massive creatures, all watching her with those eerily intelligent eyes. They're all here because of me? She asked. They're here because you're their Luna, Ronan explained. When the mate bond formed, every wolf in the pack felt it. They know who you are now. They know you belong to us, and we belong to you. I don't know how to be a Luna. I don't know how to be anything except the weird girl everyone picks on. Those days are over, Ronan said, and his voice carried absolute certainty. No one will ever hurt you again. I'll make sure of that. What did you do to them? Faye asked quietly. To Marcus and the others? Showed them what it feels like to be hunted. To be powerless. To understand that there are consequences for cruelty. Ronan's eyes glowed slightly in the firelight. They live because you're kind. Because killing them would have hurt you. But they know now. They know that you're protected. That you always were. Faye should have felt disturbed by that. Should have protested the violence. But instead, all she felt was a deep, bone-deep relief. For the first time in her life, someone had stood up for her. Someone had said that hurting her was unacceptable and had backed up those words with action. I need time, she said finally. To process all of this. To understand what it means. You have all the time you need, Ronan promised. Rest now. Heal. When you wake, we can talk more. Sage appeared again with a steaming cup of something that smelled like herbs and honey. Drink this, she instructed. It'll help with the pain and let you sleep without nightmares. Faye drank obediently, the warm liquid soothing her raw throat. Within minutes, she felt drowsiness pulling at her consciousness. The last thing she saw before sleep claimed her was Ronan shifting back into his wolf form and curling up on the floor beside her furs, a massive guardian who would watch over her through the night. For the first time in her life, Faye fell asleep feeling truly safe. 3 days passed in a blur of healing and discovery. Faye's body recovered with shocking speed, which Sage attributed to her wolf blood finally being activated. The broken ribs knitted themselves back together. The bruises faded from purple to yellow to gone. The concussion symptoms disappeared entirely by day 2. But the physical healing was nothing compared to everything else she was learning. Ronan visited her every few hours, bringing her food, checking on her progress, and slowly, carefully, explaining her new reality. He told her about werewolf society, the pack structure, the territories, the ancient laws that governed their kind. He explained that most werewolves were born, but some were half-bloods like her, children of mixed unions who didn't know what they were until their wolf awakened. Your parents, Faye asked on the 3rd day. Do you know who they were? Ronan's expression grew somber. Your mother was human. We're certain of that. Your father was wolf, likely from a pack that once lived in this region. But which pack, which wolf specifically, we don't know. All we found were records that a wolf named Marcus Layton, no relation to your bully, had taken a human mate 17 years ago. They died in a car accident when you were 3. You went into foster care, and the pack never knew you existed. So somewhere out there, I have family? Other wolves related to me? Possibly. The Layton pack scattered 20 years ago after a territory dispute. But we can search for them if you want. When you're ready. Every conversation like this brought Faye closer to accepting her new reality. But the biggest breakthrough came on the 4th morning, when she woke feeling stronger than she ever had in her life. Something's different, she told Sage, flexing her hands and marveling at how the morning light seemed sharper, clearer than before. Your wolf wants to emerge, Sage said with a knowing smile. You're healed enough now. Your body's ready for the first shift. Panic fluttered in Faye's chest. I don't know how. Your wolf knows. You just have to trust her. Ronan appeared in the doorway of the healing den, and Faye felt that now familiar tug in her chest, the mate bond singing between them. Come with me, he said, offering his hand. There's something I want to show you. Faye took his hand, and the simple touch sent warmth spreading through her entire body. Ronan led her out of the cave system, through the winding tunnels until they emerged into morning sunlight. The forest stretched before them in every direction, ancient and wild and impossibly beautiful. Faye gasped. She'd walked through Thornwood Forest hundreds of times, but she'd never seen it like this. Every leaf seemed to shimmer with its own light. She could hear the heartbeat of the forest, water running over stones miles away, birds singing in the canopy, small creatures moving through the underbrush. Your senses are heightening, Ronan explained, still holding her hand. You're perceiving the world the way wolves do now. The way you were always meant to. It's overwhelming, Faye breathed. It will balance out. Give it time. He led her to a clearing where sunlight poured through the trees like liquid gold. This is where most of our young wolves experience their first shift. The space is open, the ground is soft, and the pack will be here to support you. The whole pack? Faye's eyes widened as wolves began emerging from the forest. Not all 40, she recognized about 15 of them, including Kira and Sage and the young wolf named Ash who'd been particularly attentive during her recovery. Just those who've been guarding you, Ronan assured her. The rest are giving you space. I know this is all very new. I don't know if I can do this, Faye admitted. What if my wolf doesn't come? What if I'm broken somehow? Ronan turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. You're not broken, Faye. You've never been broken. You've been dormant, waiting for the right moment to bloom. And that moment is now. What do I do? Close your eyes, Ronan instructed gently. Feel the mate bond between us. Follow it inward, deeper into yourself, until you find her. Your wolf. She's been waiting for you. Faye closed her eyes and focused on the warmth in her chest where the bond resided. She followed it like a thread, down through layers of consciousness she hadn't known existed, until she found something wild and powerful stirring inside her. There you are, a voice that was hers but not quite hers whispered. I've been waiting so long. Her wolf. Part of her soul that had been sleeping all these years, finally awake and aware and ready. I'm scared, Faye thought. Don't be, her wolf replied. We're together now. We're whole. That's it, Ronan's voice came from what seemed like miles away. I can see it happening. Your eyes are glowing, Faye. Let her come forward. The first shift was nothing like Faye expected. It didn't hurt, or rather, it hurt in the way that stretching a muscle after years of disuse hurts. A good pain. A necessary pain. A pain that meant growth. She felt her bones shifting, restructuring themselves into a new configuration. Felt her senses exploding outward as her wolf form took over. Felt power flooding through her in waves that made her gasp. And then it was done. Faye stood on 4 legs in the morning sunlight, her fur the color of autumn leaves, russet brown shot through with threads of gold. She was smaller than the other wolves, but that was normal for a new shift. She'd grow. Beautiful, Ronan whispered, and Faye realized she could understand him perfectly even in wolf form. Faye, you're absolutely beautiful. She tried to take a step and immediately fell over her own paws. The watching wolves made sounds that were unmistakably laughter, and Faye felt embarrassment heat her face. Could wolves blush? Ronan shifted into his own wolf form and approached her carefully. First time walking on 4 legs takes practice, he said through the pack mind link, and Faye could hear him clearly in her head. Try again. Feel how your weight distributes differently. She tried again, this time managing 3 steps before stumbling. But it was progress. The young wolfash padded over, his tail wagging encouragingly. You're doing great for a first shift, Luna. I fell flat on my face and didn't get up for 10 minutes. That made Faye feel better. She tried again, and this time made it 5 steps. Then 10. Then she was walking, clumsy but upright, around the clearing while the pack watched with obvious pride. Now run, Ronan said, back in human form. He'd shifted so quickly Faye hadn't even noticed. Trust your instincts and run. Faye didn't think. She just moved. And suddenly she was flying across the clearing, her paws barely touching the ground, wind whipping through her fur. She felt alive in a way she'd never experienced before. Free. Powerful. Right. She ran in circles around the clearing, picking up speed with each lap, until finally she couldn't contain the joy bubbling up inside her. She threw her head back and howled. The sound that came out was untrained, unpracticed, but it didn't matter. The other wolves joined in, their voices harmonizing with hers, welcoming her properly to the pack. Even Ronan shifted back to wolf form and added his powerful voice to the song. For several long minutes, the Shadowfang pack filled the forest with their music, announcing to any who could hear that their Luna had awakened. When the howling finally died down, Faye shifted back to human form, easier this time, more natural, and found herself crying. But these weren't tears of sadness or pain. These were tears of joy. Of belonging. Of finally understanding who and what she was. Ronan was there immediately, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders and pulling her into his arms. Welcome home, Luna, he whispered against her hair. I've never had a home before, Faye said, her voice breaking. Not really. You do now. You always will. Around them, the pack shifted back to human form one by one. Kira approached first, offering a smile that was warm but respectful. It's an honor to serve you, Luna. I don't know how to be a Luna, Faye admitted. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. You don't have to know everything right now, Kira assured her. You learn as you go. And you have all of us to help you. Ash bounced over, his human form appearing about 19 with shaggy brown hair and an infectious grin. That was the best first shift I've ever seen. You didn't even throw up after. People throw up after shifting? Faye asked, alarmed. The first few times, sometimes. Sage said, appearing with clothes for those who'd shifted. But you handled it beautifully, dear. Your wolf is strong. The rest of the day was spent in celebration. The pack gathered in the main den, sharing food and stories, and slowly, Faye began to learn about each of them. There was Marcus, different from her bully, older and kind, who served as Ronan's enforcer. There was Luna, coincidentally named, a tracker with an unmatched sense of smell. There were the twins, Finn and Freya, who finished each other's sentences and served as the pack scouts. Each wolf had a role, a purpose, a place in the intricate web of pack life. And now Faye had one too. "What exactly does a Luna do?" she asked Ronan that evening as they sat together watching the sunset from a high cliff overlooking the territory. "Whatever she wants," Ronan said with a slight smile. "But traditionally, the Luna is the heart of the pack. The Alpha leads, but the Luna nurtures. The Alpha makes the hard decisions, but the Luna ensures those decisions consider everyone's well-being. The Alpha protects from external threats, but the Luna protects from internal ones, mediates disputes, tends to emotional needs, ensures the pack remains healthy not just in body but in spirit." "That sounds like a lot of responsibility." "It is. But you don't have to do it alone. I'll be beside you for all of it." Ronan reached over and took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "Faye, I know this is all happening very fast. I know you barely had time to process being a wolf, let alone being a Luna. If you need more time before accepting the full bond, before accepting your role, I'll wait. I've already waited 3 years. I can wait longer if that's what you need." Faye looked out over the forest, then back at Ronan. In his eyes, she saw patience, understanding, and a love so deep it took her breath away. The mate bond hummed between them, not demanding, not forcing, just present. A promise of what could be if she chose to accept it. "I spent 17 years feeling like I didn't belong anywhere," she said quietly. "Like I was wrong somehow, broken, different in all the bad ways. And then in less than a week, you've shown me that I'm not broken. That I'm exactly what I was meant to be. That different can mean special instead of wrong. You are special, Faye. You always were. The world just didn't know how to see it." "I'm still scared," she admitted. "I still don't know how to do most of this. I'll probably make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Even alphas. Even Lunas. It's part of being alive." Faye took a deep breath, feeling her wolf stir inside her, feeling the rightness of this moment settle into her bones. "I want to try. I want to be your Luna. I want to be part of this pack. I want this to be my home." The smile that spread across Ronan's face was like sunrise. He cupped her face gently in his hands, giving her every opportunity to pull away, before leaning in and kissing her softly. The mate bond, which had been humming quietly in the background, suddenly blazed to life. Faye gasped against his lips as power flooded through her, different from before. This was completion. This was two halves becoming whole. This was acceptance of destiny. When they finally broke apart, Faye's eyes were glowing silver and Ronan's were pure gold. "Welcome to the Shadowfang pack, Luna Faye," he whispered. "My mate. My equal. My everything." That night, the pack gathered for a formal ceremony. It was simple but meaningful. Ronan stood before the assembled wolves, with Faye at his side, and spoke the ancient words that officially named her as Luna. Each pack member came forward to pledge their loyalty, to welcome her, to accept her authority. When it was done, they celebrated with howls that echoed across the entire territory, announcing to all who could hear that the Shadowfang pack had found its Luna. If you're still watching, that means you're as invested in Faye's journey as we are. Show your support by dropping a like and a comment. Let us know, do you think the bullies got what they deserved, or should there have been harsher consequences? And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss stories like this one. But while the pack celebrated, in the town of Millbrook, 3 former bullies were dealing with consequences of their own. Marcus Trent hadn't slept properly in days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those wolves. Felt their eyes on him. Heard their growls echoing in his memory. He'd lost 15 pounds from stress and nightmares. His parents were worried, but he couldn't tell them the truth. Could never tell them the truth. At school, he walked the hallways like a ghost, avoiding everyone, especially anyone who asked about Faye Morrison's disappearance. Haven't seen her in weeks, he'd lie, his hands shaking. Don't know where she went. Blake Donovan had developed a stutter and a nervous tic. He'd started seeing a therapist, though he couldn't tell her what was really wrong. How could he explain that he was being haunted by the memory of beating a girl unconscious, only to be hunted by an impossible pack of giant wolves? He'd tried to go into the forest once, 2 days after that night, thinking maybe he'd imagined it. He'd made it exactly 10 feet past the tree line before a low growl froze him in place. He'd looked up to see a massive gray wolf watching him from a branch. He hadn't tried to enter the forest again. Casey Mitchell had transferred schools. Told his parents he needed a fresh start, couldn't handle the pressure anymore. But it wasn't pressure he was running from. It was guilt. Every time he saw a girl who looked even remotely like Faye, he felt his stomach turn. He'd wake in the middle of the night, convinced he could hear howling, certain that the wolves were coming for him. The three of them never spoke to each other anymore. Couldn't bear to look at each other, because each one was a reminder of what they'd done. And in the town itself, Faye Morrison's disappearance had become a minor mystery. Her foster parents had reported her missing, but there were no leads. No body. No witnesses. Just a girl who'd vanished into the forest and never came back. Some people whispered that she'd run away. Others thought maybe she'd gotten lost and died somewhere in Thornwood. A few even joked darkly that maybe the forest had finally claimed another victim. None of them knew the truth. None of them could have imagined it. The weird girl they'd all dismissed had become something magnificent. 2 months after her awakening, Faye stood in the same clearing where she'd experienced her first shift. But she was different now. Stronger. Confident. She'd grown into her role as Luna, and the pack had flourished under her and Ronan's joint leadership. She'd learned to hunt, to fight, to run for miles without tiring. She'd mediated her first dispute between pack members, helped welcome a new wolf who'd been seeking sanctuary from an abusive pack up north, and even started teaching some of the younger wolves to read and write, skills that many of them lacked. "You're a natural," Ronan had told her just that morning. "Better at this than I'd ever hoped." Now, as she stood in the clearing with the late afternoon sun warming her fur, she was in wolf form, finding it easier and easier to shift. She reflected on how dramatically her life had changed. Marcus, Blake, and Casey thought they'd destroyed her that day in the forest. Thought they'd broken her beyond repair. They had no idea they'd actually freed her. A howl echoed through the forest, and Faye recognized it immediately. Ronan, calling the pack to gather. She added her voice to his, and within minutes, wolves began appearing from all directions. When the entire pack had assembled, all 40 of them, a sea of fur and power and family, Ronan shifted to human form and addressed them. "We've received word from the council," he announced. "They want to meet our new Luna. To officially recognize her position." The council was the governing body of all wolf packs in the region, a group of alphas and elders who maintained order and settled disputes. Faye had heard stories about them but never expected to meet them so soon. "When?" she asked, shifting to human form herself. "Next full moon. They're calling a gathering of all the regional packs. It'll be your formal introduction to wolf society." Ronan's expression was proud but cautious. "It's a great honor, Faye. But also a test. They'll want to see if you're strong enough, wise enough, to be Luna of a pack as powerful as ours." "What if I'm not?" The old fear tried to creep back in, but Faye pushed it down. She wasn't that scared girl anymore. "You are," Kira said firmly. "We've all seen it. You're everything a Luna should be." "The council will see it too," Ash added. "And if they don't, well, that's their problem." The pack rumbled with agreement, and Faye felt warmth spread through her chest. These wolves believed in her. Had accepted her completely. She belonged here in a way she'd never belonged anywhere. "Then I'll do it," she said, lifting her chin. "I'll meet the council. I'll show them what the Shadowfang pack's Luna can do." Ronan's smile was fierce and proud. "That's my mate." The pack celebrated the news, their howls carrying across the territory. And if 3 former bullies in Millbrook heard those howls and shuddered in their homes, unable to sleep yet another night, well, that was justice of its own kind. The night before the council gathering, Faye couldn't sleep. She lay in the den she now shared with Ronan, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with worries and possibilities. "Talk to me," Ronan said quietly from beside her. "I can feel your anxiety through the bond." "What if they reject me?" Faye voiced her deepest fear. "What if they say I'm not good enough because I'm half-blood, because I was raised human, because I'm too new to all of this?" Ronan rolled over to face her, his golden eyes glowing softly in the darkness. "Then I'll tell the council exactly where they can shove their opinions." Despite her anxiety, Faye laughed. "You can't say that to the council." "Watch me." His expression turned serious. "Faye, you're my chosen mate. My Luna. No council, no alpha, no ancient law is more important than that. If they can't see your worth, that's their failure, not yours." "But what if it causes problems for the pack? What if other packs refuse to ally with us because—" Ronan placed a finger gently on her lips, stopping her spiral. "The Shadowfang pack has survived for 300 years because we're strong, smart, and loyal to our own. Every wolf in this pack has already accepted you. Already loves you. The opinion of outsiders doesn't change that." "You really mean that?" "With everything I am." He pulled her close, and she felt safe in his arms, the mate bond wrapping around them like a warm blanket. "Tomorrow, you're going to walk into that gathering with your head high. You're going to show them the Luna who helped Ash overcome his fear of water after his traumatic incident in the river. The Luna who mediated the dispute between Marcus and Finn over hunting territory without anyone's pride getting hurt. The Luna who stayed up all night with Sage, learning healing techniques so she could help care for the pack. They'll see all of that, and they'll have no choice but to respect you." "I hope you're right." "I'm always right. I'm the alpha." His tone was teasing, but his eyes were serious. "Get some sleep, my love. Tomorrow, we show the world what we already know, that Faye Morrison, once dismissed as weak and broken, is actually the strongest Luna this region has seen in generations." Faye finally felt her anxiety ease. She closed her eyes, snuggled against Ronan's chest, and let sleep claim her. She dreamed of running through the forest on 4 legs, 40 wolves at her back, the full moon lighting her path. She dreamed of belonging. Of power. Of home. When she woke the next morning, she was ready. The council gathering took place in a massive clearing deep in neutral territory, a place where no single pack held claim. By the time the Shadowfang pack arrived, dozens of other wolves were already there, representatives from every pack in the region. Faye walked beside Ronan in human form, dressed in clothes Sage had helped her choose, simple but elegant, practical but beautiful. Behind them, the Shadowfang pack followed in a formation that was both protective and honoring. They were announcing to everyone present that their Luna was valued, defended, cherished. Conversations died as they entered the clearing. Hundreds of eyes turned to assess Faye, and she felt her wolf stir nervously inside her. "Stand tall," her wolf whispered. "We belong here." An elderly man stepped forward, his silver hair marking him as ancient even by wolf standards. "Alpha Ronan Blackwood. We received word that you'd finally found your mate. That the Shadowfang pack had its Luna at last." "Elder Thomas." Ronan inclined his head respectfully. "May I present Luna Faye Morrison Blackwood of the Shadowfang pack." Faye stepped forward, doing her best to project confidence. "It's an honor to meet the council." Elder Thomas studied her with eyes that seemed to see through to her soul. "Half-blood," he said after a long moment. "Raised among humans. Awakened only recently. These are unusual circumstances for a Luna." "Unusual, yes," Faye agreed, refusing to look away from his penetrating gaze. "But not without precedent. And my circumstances don't diminish my commitment to my pack or my capability to lead alongside my mate." A murmur ran through the assembled wolves. Some sounded approving. Others skeptical. "Bold words," another council member, a severe-looking woman, said. "But words are easy. Can you back them up?" "Test me," Faye said, her wolf lending her strength. Whatever trial you have in mind, I'll face it. Elder Thomas smiled slightly. Very well. As is tradition when a new Luna is presented to the council, you must demonstrate 3 qualities: strength, wisdom, and heart. Are you prepared? Faye glanced at Ronan, who gave her an encouraging nod. She looked back at the council and squared her shoulders. I'm ready. Then let the trials begin. The first trial was combat. Faye had to face 3 challengers in wolf form, not to the death, but to submission. The fights were brutal, testing her physical strength and her ability to think strategically while in the heat of battle. She won the first 2 fights through a combination of speed and cunning, using her smaller size as an advantage rather than a weakness. The third fight was harder. Her opponent was a massive male wolf with decades of experience, but Faye remembered everything Ronan and Kira had taught her. She waited for her opening and took it, getting her jaws around his throat just enough to signal submission without actually hurting him. The watching wolves erupted in howls of approval. The second trial was wisdom. The council presented her with a hypothetical scenario: 2 pack members in conflict, both believing they were right, both threatening to leave the pack if the other isn't exiled. How would she handle it? Faye thought carefully before answering. I would speak to each separately first, to understand their perspectives fully. Then I would bring them together for a mediated conversation where both must listen without interrupting. Most conflicts arise from misunderstanding and wounded pride. If they can truly hear each other, resolution often follows naturally. And if that fails, I'd seek creative solutions that honor both wolves' needs without forcing either to compromise their core values. A good Luna finds the third option that no one else saw. Elder Thomas nodded slowly. And if no such option exists? Then I would make the hard choice that benefits the pack as a whole, while ensuring that whichever wolf must lead does so with honor, resources, and help finding a new pack. Because a Luna's job isn't just to preserve peace within the pack, but to care for every member's well-being, even those who can no longer stay. The council members exchanged glances, clearly impressed. The final trial was heart. For this, they brought forward a young wolf, no more than 10 years old, who'd been orphaned when his parents died in a territorial dispute. He was alone, frightened, and had been passed between packs for months, never finding a place to belong. Can the Shadowfang pack offer this child a home? Elder Thomas asked. Faye didn't hesitate. She knelt before the boy, meeting his tearful eyes with gentle certainty. What's your name? Liam, he whispered. Liam, my pack is your pack now, if you want it to be. You'll never be alone again. You'll have 40 wolves who will love you, protect you, teach you everything you need to know. You'll have a home. She opened her arms. Will you come home with us? The boy looked at her for a long moment, and then he crashed into her arms, sobbing. Faye held him tight, feeling her wolf surge with protective instinct. This child was hers now. Theirs. Part of the Shadowfang pack. When she looked up at the council, there were tears in several of the elders' eyes. Strength, wisdom, and heart, Elder Thomas said, his voice thick with emotion. You have passed all 3 trials, Luna Faye. The council recognizes you as true Luna of the Shadowfang pack. The clearing erupted with howls from every wolf present, a cacophony of sound that celebrated her acceptance. Faye stood with young Liam still in her arms, Ronan appearing at her side to wrap an arm around them both, and felt complete. She'd faced the trials. She'd proven herself. She'd found her place in this world. And she'd never been stronger. That night, back in Shadowfang territory, the pack celebrated both Faye's acceptance by the council and their newest member, Liam. The young wolf had already been adopted by half the pack, with wolves fighting over who would teach him what skills first. You did it, Ronan said, finding Faye standing at the edge of the celebration, watching her pack with a soft smile. I knew you would. We did it, Faye corrected. I couldn't have gotten here without you. Without the pack. Without everyone who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's what family does. Ronan pulled her close, and they stood together watching the celebration, 2 halves of a whole. Faye thought about the girl she'd been just a few months ago. Alone. Bullied. Convinced she was weak and worthless. That girl seemed like a stranger now. She'd been transformed not just physically by her wolf awakening, but mentally and emotionally by finding where she truly belonged. Do you ever think about them? Ronan asked quietly. The ones who hurt you? Faye considered the question. Sometimes. But not with anger anymore. They tried to break me, but they actually freed me. If that day in the forest hadn't happened, I might have gone my whole life not knowing what I was. Not finding you. Not finding home. That's a very Luna-like perspective. Wise and compassionate. Don't give me too much credit. Part of me still hopes they're suffering at least a little bit. Ronan laughed, a deep, warm sound. And that's the part of you that's perfectly wolf. We can be compassionate and still believe in justice. As they stood there, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Faye made a wish, though she already had everything she'd ever wanted. She wished for every person who'd ever felt broken, different, or worthless to find what she'd found. To discover that being different meant being special. That the things that make you feel weak in one world can make you powerful in another. That somewhere out there, there's a place and people who will love you exactly as you are. Come on, Ronan said, tugging her hand. Kira wants to teach Liam the pack song, and she says the Luna needs to be there for his first howl. Faye let herself be pulled into the celebration, into the warmth and laughter and love of her pack. Her family. Her home. She'd started this journey as Faye Morrison, the bullied girl nobody wanted. She'd become Luna Faye Morrison Blackwood, leader, protector, and heart of the Shadowfang pack. And she'd never been happier. Before we end this story, I want to take a moment to address something important. If you've watched all the way to the end without liking, commenting, sharing, or subscribing, that means you're okay with Marcus, Blake, and Casey getting away with what they did. It means you're identifying with the bullies who thought it was fine to beat an innocent girl unconscious just because she was different. I know that's not who you are. So show your support for Faye's journey by hitting that like button, dropping a comment about your favorite part of her transformation, and subscribing so you never miss stories like this. Share this with someone who needs to hear that being different is actually being special. And turn on the notification bell because we have so many more incredible stories coming your way. Thank you for being part of Faye's journey. Thank you for believing in second chances, in transformation, and in the power of finding where you truly belong. Until next time, remember, the things that make you different might just be the things that make you extraordinary.